occurring in Europe. And so today I'm here to talk about the public debate around meat, which is kind of locked, and try to think about ways to unlock it, and see also why public subsidies and cap subsidies um, lock this debate. So first of all, I'm sorry, by the way, I will focus a lot of on the French situation. So, but it's roughly comparable to other countries in Europe. So I'm sorry if I focus too much on France. But so first of all, what's the situation with regard to meat consumption in France? Well, French people consume twice as much meat as the global average. So it's of course way too much. It's around 83 kilos per person and per year. And meats also represent a major share of the food spending of people here in France, while plant protein remains quite marginal. So the level of consumption in France exceeds both environmental and also nutritional recommendation, of course. But in the meantime, French people believe that they are eating less meat. Surveys suggest that, and it's quite intriguing, because so if we believe that at first glance, we could think that dietary habits are evolving, but actual consumption remains largely unchanged. I mean, it changed a little bit over the years. Over the past 20 years, actually, it decreased by only 6%, which is really marginal over 20 years. But the problem is that people believe they eat less meat because they switched to red meat, from red meat to poultry mainly, which is because it's just cheaper and perceived also as healthier. So as a result, the number of animals killed continues to increase, which is exactly what we don't want to see. And we all know why meat reduction matters, because of course reducing the consumption of meat has huge impacts on animals, of course, but also on the climate and environment, public health, so deforestation. So for all these reasons, it's really important to go forward and to really significantly decrease the consumption of meat. And also scientists agreed on that, and they worked on different scenarios in order to find out how could we think about a sustainable society and a sustainable food system. And all the scenarios that we've analyzed go in the same direction. And I'm talking about ADEME, Solagro, IDRI, Climate Action Network, or CNRS. The recommendation is to cut by half, or to cut by half to 70% of meat, and of course increase legumes, fruit, vegetables, plant-based proteins in general. So, in other words, our aim to cut by half, to reduce by half the number of animals that we killed, is kind of almost conservative, if we compare it to what scientists believe. But so there is a strong agreement on that, but very little changes at the end of the day. So why? And one of the main reasons why is because public debate is locked. And it remains extremely constrained. It's very hard to talk about that. Organizations, researchers, companies, NGOs, even farmers who can question the system sometimes face backlash from the industry, from farmers' union, from political actors also. It can be pressure also on international institutions such as the FAO or IPCC, threats against NGOs, journalists, And in France, for example, L214 has been criminalized through political speeches, rhetoric, and well, subject to threats. And so it's very difficult, even for big organizations or public figures, to try to say loudly that, yeah, we need to reduce meat, which is kind of frightening. And also the market is rigged because the meat industry is in control, basically. The food environment, which is controlled by the meat company, drives overconsumption. Consumers, when they go to the supermarket, restaurants, when they see advertising, so when they go to their social media platforms, they are driven to overconsumption of meat. While plant-based alternatives remain quite marginal in comparison in terms of marketing and in terms of just presence in the shelves of this supermarket. For example, in France, around 80% of ready-made meals contain fish or meat in French supermarket. So the meat industry benefits also from powerful marketing and pricing strategies. Studies showed that meat products receive far more promotional support than fruits, vegetables, or legumes. And at the same time, the economic system externalizes many of the costs of the meat production because it's public money that pays for public health costs, for climate impacts, for environmental degradation. And in the same time, farmers themselves remain quite often very fragile, despite being central to the system. They earn very little money. And this strength of the meat sector, we have to acknowledge that it comes for a big part from the subsidies they received from the cap. Livestock farming places a very heavy burden on public finances, and like you said in the introduction, they receive a huge chunk of the subsidies of the cap. I found the figure of 82% of EU agricultural subsidies that are devoted directly to animal production, which is 38%, and indirectly through feed production, 44%. We had roughly the same figures. And the same animal products are responsible for 84% of greenhouse gas emission, while providing only 35% of calories. And in France, because I said I would focus a lot in France. In France, cattle, sheep, and goat farms are all subsidized. 96% of pig farms and 85% of poultry farms are subsidized, with a total amount each year of 4.3 billion euros in public subsidies, just dedicated to cattle farming, which is like this sector which receives the most subsidies in France. And it received so much subsidies that the French Court of Auditors noted that the economic model of cattle farming was really fragile and just dependent on high level of public subsidies, and therefore it was it was not sustainable. Also, the animal production benefits from reduced production costs due to subsidies supporting feed production. And basically, without these subsidies, around half of sheep and goat farms and beef farms would have operated at a negative gross operating surplus in 2022. So, the problem with all that is that they receive a lot of money, and it does not go to the farmers. The animal farmers, they stay very poor. They are among the poorest in France, and so it's not it's not a good deal for them either. So we have to change the situation basically, and we wondered how to unlock the public debate and how can we break through it. And of course, oh, Sabine, I see you raised your hand, so I reached the 10 minutes. Okay, allocated time. So the debate, like I said, is particularly sensitive because the industry defends its economic ambitions, while farmers fear for their livelihoods. So it's very sensitive. And so to unlock the public debate means that we've got to address farmers' working condition and to offer immediate solution for them. Because if we ignore the socio-economic dimension of the transition, it means that we will face total resistance from them. And the transition we advocate for must clearly mean zero job loss and a better deal for animal farmers. And we've got to be really clear on that. And we need to address the issue on all fronts simultaneously, like to talk to farmers, to also offer a market for plant-based sector. To involve major retailers, to involve food processing industries, to involve also catering, public catering, and also to involve, of course, farmers and to really address their challenges, especially the debt they face, because farmers in France and in Europe are trapped in a system that pushes them to produce more and more, and they've got to find a market for that. So, conclusion, we have to address farmers' situation and to talk directly to them and to think about the big picture. And I believe that Sabine will circulate this report. There is the French version